Welcome to the Sourcing Hero podcast, produced by Una, a group purchasing organization that empowers sourcing heroes, and Art of Procurement, the world's largest procurement podcast network. I'm your host, Kelly Barnard. The goal of the Sourcing Hero podcast is to capture the epic stories of people who are rising up and beating the odds to create exceptional value within procurement, directly from those heroes themselves. Today on the podcast, we're going to take a look back at some of our most downloaded episodes of 2024, wrapping the year by celebrating the interviews that resonated most with you. We'll listen to a short clip from each episode, and of course, you can find links to the full episode in today's show notes so that you can catch up on the ones you might have missed. Over the last 12 months, I've spoken with some of the most innovative, creative, and caring minds working in procurement and beyond. And we've explored topics that range from cutting-edge optimization strategies to deeply personal journeys of purpose and passion. And now, it's time to count down the 5 most downloaded episodes of 2024. The conversations that you found most compelling, most inspiring, and most worth sharing. Let's start with episode number 5, What You Don't Know About Shipping Can Hurt You. I spoke with Nick DiNatale, founder and CEO of ShipPlug. Nick shared his extensive supply chain experience and explained all the things shippers might not know that could end up costing their companies and their customers more. Here's a clip from the episode where Nick talks about the importance of shipping data and how understanding costs can impact a company's bottom line.
Yeah, I think being able to have the data to, one, make sure that the service is what we expected. How many of the packages are truly late going to one customer? If it's consistently the same customer having late packages, well, they might find a different vendor to buy from. If it's an e-commerce customer that consistently has late packages, it's very easy to get a chargeback. So from that customer experience, to have the data to pick the right carrier lane by lane can be invaluable to healthcare businesses, to e-commerce businesses, to any type of manufacturing. Then on the other side, not only the service side, but price matters. And some businesses are competing over pennies. Yeah. So when the sale depends on if you're the low cost online or your margins aren't where they need to be as a wholesale distributor, that's when cost matters. And at times, the carriers can change the price, but also customer by customer have such a variable price. If you're not priced fairly, you might not be able to sell certain products. So the service aspect of it, right? You can lose customers. You have customer complaints. You have the where's my order call. That's one's cost, a lot of soft costs there. Then the direct cost to the bottom line. But think how many missed sales could be if you don't have the data to understand your pricing at a profitable margin, but also to make sure you're competitive with your competitors to make that sale.
One thing I'd like to point out here. Yes, Nick talked about bottom line profitability, but his first thoughts were about the customer experience. It doesn't matter what your business does or who your customer is. If you forget about them, you cannot succeed. Every action taken, every decision made in a company will eventually impact customers. Make sure those actions and decisions lead to positive impact by thinking about the customer first. Now on to number 4 on our list, an episode featuring my conversation with Paul Nilsson, Director of Procurement at Douglas Elliman Real Estate, on finding purpose in procurement and in life. In this episode, Paul talked about how the Japanese philosophy of ikigai has helped him achieve greater impact in his professional life as a procurement leader, but in his personal life as well. In this short clip, he explains why.
I think it is in the intertwining of the two. I mean, procurement people are used to delivering value, and I can take great pride in the accomplishments that I've had. But the fiduciary responsibility that we have to companies, and that's all great, and the stuff to be very proud of in your career. But at a certain point, also, you want to kind of you think about legacy. You think about the legacy that you leave as a person. But also, everybody wants a balanced life. I think it's a non-controversial statement, right? You want a balanced existence, a balanced existence of purpose as well as professional enrichment. And so it's a great opportunity to when I walk home every day from work, I go by a church that feeds the homeless and they feed hungry people. It's a sobering experience, right? Because I think to myself, I'm rattling off the day's events, but then you hit this reality and you go, okay, well. Is there any way that I can do something about this, or apply what I know to help people? I think that's just a natural extension of where I'm at right now in terms of how can I do more? How can I do something more? How can I lend my procurement skills maybe to something that's more purpose driven?
I absolutely loved what Paul shared in this conversation. He wasn't advocating for one belief system or set of values. He spoke about balance. We have to go to work. Okay, well, most of us, including me, have to go to work. But that doesn't define us. It isn't even enough to make us who we are. We need more than that. But everything we learn and experience in every part of our lives becomes something we can then use elsewhere to achieve the greatest overall good. Our third most popular podcast episode of the year was about how to tell a compelling procurement story featuring Alex Ball, Director of Growth Marketing at WorkForge. Alex explained how to win over skeptics and change negative attitudes by sharing information beyond the numbers and engaging in healthy self-promotion and procurement's internal messaging. In this clip, you'll recall Alex explaining the importance of storytelling in procurement and how to use data to tell a good story.
I think storytelling is the underlying thing that is most important in marketing without a question, right? I think people sometimes get lost in the snappy tagline or the memorable commercial or all of those things. But, when I start thinking about marketing in a story format, there's kind of a couple of formulas I like to think of that kind of fall underneath that, right? One is I'm a big fan of the Simon Sinek why, how, what model, which is people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it first, right? So when you start thinking why, I worked for a tech company a handful of years ago where I got introduced to this model by, without question, the smartest creative mind I ever worked with. And, we talked about things in that vein, right? We started with why we existed. What was our mission, our vision? Then we talked about how we were going to accomplish it. And then we talked about what we actually did, which was more the first time we got into the whole story about our software and our technology and all of those things. And what we found was people started to really grasp our purpose, and stories are more memorable too, right? And when you break things down into a story, it gets out of like the techie side of things and the nuts and bolts. Like, not everybody's going to know what the ins and outs of a tool are, but they will remember that story behind what the tool is.
And I think procurement may not naturally have that skill set, but we've certainly felt what happens when you don't use storytelling. We're so data driven that a lot of times a question, whether it's from a supplier, an executive, a stakeholder, they'll ask us this question and the answer is 12, which might be accurate, but is not, I don't know, it's not memorable. It doesn't have that emotional connection. And based on the commercials I watch on TV, if you can have some sort of emotional connection to most of the products being sold on TV these days, then I think it's within reason to have emotional connection to the work that procurement does. What is it that the numbers are important, the data is important, but what do we need to wrap that information in to actually make a lasting impact when we share it?
I think it's there's one of my favorite things to do is just ask the question why, right? So I had somebody really smart in my career one time say, if you ask the question why 5 times to every answer, you'll eventually get the real answer. So in the example you used, you said the answer is 12.
Mm.
Okay, so why is the answer 12? Why does that matter? Why does that matter? Why does that matter? Why does that matter? And when you do that on the back end, you're too late, right? But if you start telling that story on the front end and lead with, like as a marketer, I may go into a boardroom or an executive room and say, hey, we ran this campaign. Here's why we ran it.
Yeah.
Here's what we did to accomplish the why. And here's how, why, how, and then what, right? Here's how we went about it. Here's what we did specifically. And then here were the results. By leading with that story, you get to why 12 matters, right? So
Yeah.
it's a lot of times it's not a matter of not doing something that's out of your comfort zone. It's just a matter of the order of operations with which you tell that story, right? Does that make sense?
It absolutely does. I know we often talk about procurement needing to sell decision makers on our strategies and recommendations, but we need to take that idea, that approach, very seriously. Preparing to go into a meeting doesn't just mean having the materials together and the numbers straight. It means knowing how to present those materials and numbers to that audience given the outcome you're looking for. Creating a little bit of drama, whether it be suspense, excitement, regret, or joy, is a very effective communication tool. And you can be sure no one will be looking at their phone while you have the floor. We're getting closer to our most popular episode of the year by hitting number 2 on our list, Calling All Solution Enthusiasts with Akilah Johnson. Akilah's passion for procurement really came through in this episode. And in her words, she is on a mission to tell the world why procurement is a wonderful field to go into. But part of that also means squashing negative stereotypes about procurement professionals being fun squashers, penny pinchers, and the ones always telling the business, no, you can't do that. In this clip, Akilah brings some humor to these stereotypes, but she also provides procurement with a serious reminder about how they can overcome them and become known instead as value-creating strategic partners.
Yep. So I am on a mission to debunk all of the Dilbert purchasing and procurement comic strips. I have one that I want to share with you. While, there are some truths to some of this, some of it is, over exaggerated. So this one is Bob works in procurement. Your duties are simple. People will come to you and ask you things. Assume all employees are lying. Treasure hunting thieves. Give them low-cost substitutes and claim the savings on your accomplishments. Is that what we try to do? No.
I should hope not.
But for the people on the outside looking in, they may interpret it that way. And then you have individuals like myself who did not start in procurement. I actually started in finance and accounting, and I had the same questions that a lot of the people that I'm trying to evangelize to have. And then how can I add value in the space of procurement? Or for existing individuals, how can I be seen more as a partner versus ancillary support or tactical support? And the way we do that is we become more and more passionate about what we're doing, and we continue to stress the importance of our roles as strategic partners. So if you are an individual who loves to learn new things and gain exposure and manage relationships, and the list goes on and on, I think that this is, or it has been, my dream job. I feel very fulfilled being in this role.
Here's the thing. All roles, functions, and industries had to start somewhere. I mean, accounting used to be done on clay tablets, but no one holds that against them. Procurement may not want to shine a light on every phase from our past, but each one of those phases played a role in getting us to where we are today. And if you ask me, that is a pretty great place. Now that brings us to the number 1 most popular, most downloaded Sourcing Hero podcast episode for all of 2024. Optimization of procurement in the automotive industry featuring Robert Chachkovic, a sourcing buyer for Bugatti Rimac, a Croatian company that develops and produces cutting-edge hypercars. In this episode, Robert covered a ton of ground, talking about procurement optimization, education, automotive supply chain trends, AI, supplier management, and business alignment. It's no wonder this episode took the top spot. There really was a little something for everyone in this episode. Here's a short clip from my interview with Robert, where he describes what it means to be a sourcing hero.
I think that in general, based on my so far experience working in procurement, I think it requires a lot of adaptability, proactivity, and a wide range of managing various tasks and stakeholders simultaneously in order to then achieve the final result that you want to achieve in the end. So I think that everyone who is a procurement professional and everyone who is, bravely fighting this procurement battle that we are fighting on a daily basis can definitely consider themselves as a sourcing hero, at least in my book. So absolutely. I would just say, keep pushing, guys. We can do this together, definitely.
I can't think of a better message to end the episode with or to end the year with. Here's what I hear in Robert's words. Every single one of us has the potential to be a sourcing hero. Based on the answers to that question that I hear week in and week out, I know there are many, many different ways to be sourcing heroes. The trick is to find the one that works for you and then act on it. Better still, link arms with the rest of the community. As Robert said, let's do this together. Well, there you have it, our top 5 most popular episodes of 2024. Each of these conversations represents a unique perspective, powerful insight, lived experience, and opportunity to be inspired by sourcing heroes. I would like to offer a big thank you to all of our sourcing hero guests this year, each of whom was willing to offer their passion, expertise, and unique stories to our podcast. And of course, an even bigger thank you to you, our listeners. You continue to make the Sourcing Hero podcast a vibrant community of its own, where we make sure that learning, growth, and inspiration for procurement are easily accessible. We will be taking a 1-week break over the holidays, but we will return on January 1st to start your year off right. I wish every single one of you a Merry Christmas, a happy holiday, and a happy new year. We will look forward to seeing you all in 2025. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Sourcing Hero podcast. Join us again next time for more true stories of sourcing and business heroism performed by your colleagues and peers. Look for the Sourcing Hero wherever you get your podcasts, and don't forget to subscribe. Finally, don't forget, sourcing heroism is taking place all around us every day. Keep your eyes open and you're bound to see it. Until next time, I'm your host, Kelly Barner. Stay well and always remember that you can be a hero too.